Good evening, TV Land. Welcome to What's Your Point? I'm Ben Gramato, the voice of reason.
And I'm Sam Policia, the voice of the people. We got a lot to go through today and a lot of March Madness and some baseball forecasts.
But first, we take a look at last night's game between the Blue Devils of Duke and the Michigan State Spartans. Zion Williamson's college career most likely came to an end yesterday after falling to Michigan State 68-67 in the Elite Eight. And what might end up being the best game of the tourney so far, there were a total of 16 lead changes in the game. With this win, has Sparty emerged as a new favorite? And the more important question, was this region stacked in favor of Duke? And did the selection committee get things right?
Really, I think that the selection committee did get things right. Like you said, I mean, they had to verse Michigan State. It was a kind of a tough matchup for them. But when you see that they versed each other, you saw Michigan State was a 10 seed the first time they versed each other, and the second time they versed each other, Michigan State was a 9 seed. So really, they were kind of in the same spot the entire year. And Michigan was at a 7 seed the first time and a 10 seed the second time. So in both situations, they were kind of neck and neck. But throughout the entire season, Michigan was really the better team to go forward. So I think that the way that they set it up, having Michigan State in the same side of the bracket as Duke, really set up for a perfect Elite Eight matchup for the two teams.
Here's the thing. I think Michigan State should have been in the West region. Duke was the number one overall team in the tourney, and Michigan State won their conference tournament. They beat Michigan 3 times on the season, and you know what? Michigan State, they should have played the Zags instead of Duke. This was a Final Four matchup that the committee took away from us. We should have been seeing Michigan State-Duke this weekend.
Moving on to the next question. The University of Virginia Cavaliers men's basketball team are in the Final Four for the first time since 1984 after defeating Purdue 80-75 in the Elite Eight. In his 620 appearance, Tony Bennett's team is finally in the Final Four after being on the wrong end of the biggest upset in college basketball history. Last year, UVA is set to face 5-seed Auburn on Saturday. Does Virginia have the best odds to win the whole thing?
Virginia most definitely has the best odds to win this whole thing. They went 30-3 in the regular season, 2 losses coming to Duke, the other coming in the semis of the ACC tournament against a red-hot FSU team. This Virginia team is very experienced. Ty Jerome, Kyle Guy, DeAndre Hunter, they're all upperclassmen, and their defensive efficiency is just ridiculous. They're the best team in this tournament, in my opinion. And you know what? Look at the teams remaining. Michigan State, Texas Tech, Auburn. Auburn's without one of their top players right now who got hurt in that Kentucky game. Virginia, Michigan State, or Texas Tech, Michigan State on the other end. This Virginia team, they come from the best conference in the entire college basketball, and that's why they're just so experienced. And that loss against UMBC, I think that helps them because it really helped mold and just define who they are as a team.
Yeah, I agree completely. Them coming out of that ACC section, it was a perfect opportunity for them to be the number 1 seed left remaining.
Moving on from the hardwood to the diamond, the 2018 Major League Baseball champions are off to a rough start to the season after opening weekend. The Red Sox dropped 3 of their first 4 games to start the season in Seattle. Does Boston have any reason to be worried, or is it too early to worry about the state of the team?
It's definitely too early. We're only 4 games into the season. Yeah, they had a rough matchup against Seattle, but Seattle has always played this team well, and with the fact that the Red Sox really haven't been able to get their groove yet, they're still going to be at the top of their division. They're still probably going to be at the top of the entire AL. And with Xander Bogaerts getting a brand new contract, Benintendi still being there, and JD Martinez only being 31 years of age, this team is in prime position to repeat again as AL division champions.
Yeah, you know what? It's just crazy how some people can already be worried about this Red Sox team. They're without Greg Kimbrel, who, was a huge piece in that run last season. And you know what? Every team has some sort of hangover. We saw that with the Cubs. That was pretty extreme in 2017. They turned things around. They didn't make it back to the World Series, but they were still fine. They made the playoffs. I'm not worried about Boston whatsoever. They have such a talented team, as you mentioned, but you know what? The Yankees, with their improvements, who knows what this AL East race could be. But in terms of, being worried about their start, Seattle also had the advantage of playing 2 games in Japan against Oakland earlier in the season. Coming up, we talk Harden versus the Freak for MVP and what is Gronk's legacy.
Plus our lightning round and hot takes, all coming up on What's Your Point?
The second I got on the campus, I knew Oswego was the place to go.
There's a place for everybody at Oswego.
This school just opens the world to you. Have the opportunity to explore and to learn so many different things, not only about yourself, but the people around you and the world.
It definitely is about the student. I felt it to be very about me.
Now that I'm here, I can't imagine myself anywhere else.
Everybody can make something, because I think everyone has a spark of creativity, and the reason that I have to keep making is because I don't think my life would be as fulfilling without it. If you make things yourself, that means you're not cowering in fear. You're out there taking chances. That, I think, is my way of saying I love you to the world. All right, now I want to hear why you make.
Share your own Why I Make story today. Visit whyimake.org.
David Richey. I mean, they were. Do you think Bryce Harvey, a Tommy John survivor, Nathan Evaldi?
Welcome back to What's Your Point? As most of the world knows, the Los Angeles Lakers were officially eliminated from the NBA playoffs this season after a loss to the Brooklyn Nets last week. This is the 6th consecutive season that the Lake Show have missed out on the playoffs and marks the first time since the 2004-2005 season that LeBron hasn't been in the playoffs. What's next for the Lakers, and does it have LeBron involved in the plan?
It most certainly has to have King James involved in the plan. He's still the best player on this planet, despite what anyone could tell me. You know, it was a down year, but he got hurt in that Christmas Day game versus the Warriors, which really just threw their whole season off. They really weren't the same team after that. But what's next for the Lakers? They need to go out and get a superstar. Yes, the Anthony Davis trade rumors really just threw the entire team off for a loop, you know, with the entire team morale and chemistry. But, you know, they have young players, a lot of young talent, but what really just needs to bridge that together with King James as a player like Kemba Walker or Damian Lillard. They need to go out and get some star power.
Yeah, I agree completely. LeBron James is still the best player in NBA basketball. He has been for the last 10-plus years. There's really nothing that can convince me that he hasn't been the best player, even with a groin injury that his trainer has come out and said it's a 6-month injury time frame for him to return, and he came back in a short amount of time, only a couple weeks later. So he's definitely going to have plenty of time to come through. Like you said, getting a guy like Kemba Walker in the offseason.
Yes, definitely. And last week, Rob Gronkowski officially announced his retirement from the NFL in an Instagram post. Gronk ends his historic career with 521 receptions, 7,861 receiving yards, and 79 TDs. Don't forget, he's also a 3-time Super Bowl champion, 4-time first-team All-Pro, and a 5-time Pro Bowler. With all these accolades in mind, is Gronk the best tight end to ever play in the NFL?
I'm going to have to say no. I think he's got to be the second best. I think Tony Gonzalez is easily the best tight end of all time. He has by far the most amount of receiving yards for a tight end with, I think, around 12,000. He has more catches than any other tight end in NFL history. He has more touchdowns than any other tight end in NFL history. He's done it for 2 different teams, being on Kansas City to start his career and then moving over to Atlanta to play with Matt Ryan in the Atlanta Falcons. So I think he's been able to prove that he's been the best. And with Gronk's injury history, being in and out of the lineup consistently over the 9 years that he's been a part of the NFL, I think it's proven that he's got to be the number 2 tight end behind Tony Gonzalez.
See, the thing is, you got me there, is Gronk's injury history. If Gronk didn't get injured, his numbers would be so much better. You look at this player, a once-in-a-generation type talent. 6'6", 265 receiving yards. He's just an absolute tank. No one can stop him. We've just seen all his plays, you know, with these highlight-level plays day in and day out. And the people who say he benefited off having the best quarterback in NFL history, I think he helped extend Brady's career. It is a huge reason why Brady still playing up to this point and was able to get 3 more Super Bowls.
Yeah, definitely. I think that having Tom Brady was definitely something that did help him, but it didn't make Rob Gronkowski. He was going to be one of the better tight ends in NFL history, regardless of who his quarterback was. All right. Moving on, the New York Yankees fell short in the postseason last year, losing to the Boston Red Sox in the ALDS. The Yankees have made several adjustments to their starting rotation, as well as signing Troy Tulowitzki. Do the Yankees' offseason moves make them serious World Series contenders?
I wouldn't go as far as saying serious World Series contenders, but, they have to be better than last season. Their starting rotation, was just an absolute disaster with Sonny Gray. They solidified it with James Paxton coming from Seattle. He had that no-hitter in Toronto last season. They start off 1-2 against the O's. As we talked about earlier, early season struggle is nothing to really worry about. But, you had a player like Tulo, an experienced veteran who can field, who can hit in the postseason. That's really going to pay dividends. And I think, they'll be right back where they were last season.
I agree. I think that they're actually going to do a little better had they got knocked out of the ALDS this year. I think that they make it to the ALCS, and we'll see what happens, who their matchup may be against. But not only Tulo did they get, they also added DJ LeMahieu coming over from the NL, from the Colorado Rockies. I think having him on the team is definitely going to help out that rotation at second base with Andujar playing third and Tulowitzki playing short. I think that they'll be able to really work some things around Aaron Boonwell. But overall, this team has made giant leaps this year, and I think that they're going to be able to really chase the Red Sox for that ALD crown.
And I think having a healthy Aaron Judge should also help. But to move on, James Harden is having a historic season in Houston, producing record offensive numbers. On Saturday, he recorded his 5th career 50-point triple-double against the Kings, and he's had 3 50-point games in the past 6. In Milwaukee, however, Giannis continues his spectacular play as his Bucks hold the top record in the NBA. The question here is, between the two, who's your MVP?
For me, it's got to be Giannis Antetokounmpo. I mean, he's been a part of the best, like you said, the best team with the best record in the NBA so far this year. They're top 2 in both offensive and defensive rating. He's averaging 28 and 12 and 6 this year, also leading the Bucks in almost every major statistical category. He's doing it at an incredible rate. And with this team, with the way that's currently constructed, having Chris Middleton as an all-star beside him, they're in a perfect position to come out as the team coming out of the Eastern Conference. So he should be the top MVP candidate in my eyes.
I love both these players, but you look at Giannis, the way their team constructed, that's why they're winning games. James Harden, in a league where people put up video game numbers because of how teams play defense, he's far and away the best offensive player. You look at it, averaging 36.4 points, averaging 36.2% shooting from the field, and 3 50-point games in the past 6 games. He's just putting up ridiculous numbers. Houston's 3rd in a very tough West. Harden's play is a huge reason, and I believe he should be the MVP.
Yeah, definitely. Somebody else who could be in the conversation is Paul George. I mean, with what OKC's been able to do this year, even though they're in the 8th seed, he's putting up insane stats. Definitely one of the top 2 two-way forwards in the NBA on the defensive and offensive side of the ball, leading the OKC Thunder with Russell Westbrook.
See, if you're going to ask me this 2 months ago, I would say Paul George, but the Thunder have fallen off quite a bit, and that's why I believe it should still be James Harden. Harden's the best player in the West right now, and the West is the best. Coming up is our fastest segment, the Lightning Round, where we will talk about if the Browns are faves in the AFC and is the AAF in danger. All that and more is coming up right here after the break. Keep it here with What's Your Point?
Guys, I don't feel so good. Shouldn't have had that chili for lunch.
When you are in space, you can't run down to the store to buy parts. You have to improvise with what you have on your mission. Making is when there is something new that was not in existence at the beginning of the day.
Okay.
It's an incredible sense of accomplishment when you have made something. That's why I make. Now I want to hear why you make.
Share your own Why I Make story today. Visit whyimake.org.
Hello? Josh, the stream's not working. We need you to fix it right now. the stream's down, I'll be right there.
Welcome back to What's Your Point? A great philosopher once said, I want to go fast.
That was Ricky Bobby. We got your speed fix. It's time for our quick takes. First question, if the rumors are true and Kyler Murray gets drafted by the Cards, then where do you see Josh Rosen ending up?
I think it's got to be the New York Giants. They're the team with the most probability of needing a quarterback with Eli Manning. Even though they said he's going to be most likely their quarterback in 2020, I think it's got to be the Giants because they're in a prime position with a guy like Saquon Barkley in the backfield.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to agree with you, but the best spot, I think, is actually the Los Angeles Chargers. You know, according to rumors, the Chargers offered the most, which was a second-round pick. Yes, they put Tyrod Taylor right there at that bridge quarterback, but you look at a Chargers team, a young team with a lot of talent. Phillip Rivers is getting older, and that entire organization is much better run than the Giants right now, which is a dumpster fire.
After all the preseason hype, the Blue Devils are out of the NCAA tournament. Is Duke the one of the most overrated teams, or is Sparty that good?
I think Duke has to be one of the most overhyped teams of all time. Yes, they had the top 3 recruits in the 2018 recruiting class, and they started off on fire. But once, things settled down, they really weren't all that good. Zion was hurt for a long period of time, but once you got to that NCAA tournament, they should have lost to UCF. And against Virginia Tech, they definitely should have gone into overtime. You're going up against all these teams that aren't really that good and just scraping by the skin of their teeth, and then they went up and lost to Sparty. Tampa Bay is at the top of the NHL in the point standings, and they have a chance to win the record for most games in a single season this year. Can they do it, and what does that mean for the team going into the postseason?
I think they can do it. I mean, they've shown it all season long. They have a great set of players on that roster. They're definitely poised to make a postseason run with the amount of people that they have on their team, with Girardi, Strawman, Kucherov, and Stamkos. I think that the firepower on that team is definitely going to put them up over the top. They have to be the favorites in the Eastern Conference and really all of the NHL.
Yeah, and you look at they just need 3 wins to tie the record, 4 to win it all right. And you look at the remaining games against Ottawa, they beat them twice, lost once. At Montreal, lost twice, or lost once, won twice. Same with Toronto and Boston. They've beaten all these teams, and I think not the easiest stretch, but it's definitely winnable.
The Cleveland Browns have made serious waves with their acquisitions this season. Does the deal make the Browns the favorites of the AFC North? And should the NFL keep an eye on the dog pound?
I mean, the AFC North is definitely the Browns to lose this year, in my opinion. Yes, I know the Browns haven't made the playoffs in so long, but you look at all their talent and the losses by teams in their division. Pittsburgh, they've lost their top 2 offensive skill position players. And Baltimore, they've lost quite a bit too. They lost C.J. Mosley, who is their top player defensively the past several seasons, and John Brown, who really was just a security blanket, a top receiver for a young quarterback. So if you look at that, and then bigger picture, the Pats lost Gronk, and this is a team that's going to be making serious noise in the NFL for years to come. Houston defensive tackle Ed Oliver put up monster numbers at his pro day. A look at mock drafts have him outside of the top 5, though. But if you are an NFL GM, do you take Oliver in the top 5?
I don't take Eddie Oliver in the top 5. I think that playing in the conference that he did, Houston really didn't have really not a lot of people that could really contest them. I think he definitely put up a great season. He's definitely a top 10, top 15 pick. Being in that top 5 selection with Joey Bosa, Kyler Murray, Quinnen Williams, guys like that of that nature, I think it's definitely too hard to have him as a top 5 player in this year's draft alone.
But looking at his pro day, come on. I mean, Ed Oliver, his three-cone shuffle was at 4.22 seconds, which is faster than Saquon Barkley, one of the top young running backs in the NFL. This guy's just an athletic freak. 32 bench reps, which was as much as Ndamukong Suh. His measurables are very great, not the best. I think he's an Aaron Donald type player.
The Alliance of American Football, or the AAF, started white hot, but now there seems to be little interest with Vince McMahon's XFL on the horizon. Should the AAF be worried, or are the pro leagues not named the NFL doomed?
I think the AAF should definitely be worried, Sam. You know, you look at, they start off white hot, and they've started to add these major TV networks with all this branding and marketing. They still really haven't reached the surface. How many people do you know that watch the AAF consistently? I couldn't name five people who are huge fans of the AAF. You look at the XFL and all that Vince McMahon is investing, selling his shares of the WWE to put money into this. You know, the best players are going to go where the money is, and a lot of the best players in the AAF right now are going to jump ship next season.
Yeah, but definitely you got to think of the fact that the leaps that they've made in the NFL, and for the NFL, having that PI interview rule that got implemented now in the NFL, I think that's huge for them.
University of Kentucky head coach John Calipari has been offered a contract from UCLA worth a reported $48 million. To counter that sweet deal, UK has offered the Hall of Famer a lifetime deal to stay where he is. If you're Coach Cal, where are you going?
I'm staying in Kentucky. I've made my career working with the Kentucky Wildcats. I've had year in, year out, great seasons, great opportunities.
And, you know, not to jump in, but you look at their recruiting classes every year, they're just amazing.
Yeah, they are. I mean, you look back at the team that they have with Karl Anthony Towns. They had who else was on that team? The guy that, Willie Cauley-Stein. They have plenty of people on this team. Devin Booker. They've had plenty of people on these teams that have been able to really put this team over the top, but they haven't been able to come out on top at the NCAA tournament. But you see with most of these teams that do the one-and-done rule, they really don't come out that
And that is all for our quick take segment, but we're going to take a quick break.
When we come back, we will give our hot takes, both coming after the dust clears from March Madness.
We'll see you right here, right after this break.
Hey, President Stanley, what's your favorite television station?
I don't know. Hey, guys, what do you think?
My family and friends are always with me, no matter where I may be. From home helps me sustain my recovery from my mental and substance use disorder.
Hi, sweetheart.
Join the Voices for Recovery. Our families, our stories, our recovery.
For confidential information on mental and substance use disorders, including prevention and treatment referral for you or someone you know, call 1-800-662-HELP. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Good evening and welcome to WTOP 10.
Total, Baldwin faces 32 charges.
I went to Woodchuck Saloon.
Too much temperature change.
1310 meteorologist.
2 as well.
Visions from Tanner Spink.
Go to 2-1.
2 with 6 and 10 on the year.
Back and better than ever. One student can win up to $25 in cash. All on Oswego's favorite game show, Spin to Win! Every Sunday night at 9, only on WTOP 10 TV.
Welcome back, kids. It's time for our hottest segments where we will bring you our hottest takes from this past week in sports. I'll start with mine. Following Syracuse's 78-69 loss in the round of 64, the Orange exited the first round for the first time since 2006, where they fell to number 11 Texas A&M. Bayham's squad has reached 2 Final Fours in the past 7 seasons, but former Cuse assistant Mike Hopkins is enjoying a lot of success at his new home in Seattle, where he's turned around the Huskies program in just 2 seasons, and he secured the 4th best player in the 2019 recruiting class in Isaiah Thomas. While the former Syracuse interim head coach did not have much success during his brief time in Boeheim's place, things are getting a lot better in Washington. Despite the Orange reaching the tournament this season and knocking off #1 Duke in the regular season, I think Boeheim is done. Syracuse's lack of second-half adjustments and offensive struggles points to why I believe that Boeheim should no longer be the head coach the head man in Syracuse. He's 74 years old. Cuse has fell off completely. I just don't think that his coaching style translates to the modern day NCAA. I know that 2-3 zone is still very dynamic. Don't get me wrong, but you look at their offensive sets, all they're looking to do is just ISO or 2-3. No play style. Defense, yes, while it is great, it can also be a dinosaur, especially against teams who can really shoot the three. You look at Baylor, they just destroyed Cuse coming out of the game, and it all had to do to that fantastic three-point shooting ability. And that is why I believe Coach B should no longer be the head coach.
Yeah, I think that having Jim Boeheim as the coach, I think you got to stick with him. I think he's put too much into that program. I think he's done too much for that program. And I think being able to have him there, like you said, with that 2-3 zone, and you said that their offense really only consists of ISOs and threes. I mean, that's what the NBA is now. The NCAA is really going to really emulate what the NBA is able to do. All right, with mine, Duke's RJ Barrett dropping out of the top this year. 22.6 points and 4.3 assists per game in what appears to be his only season with the Blue Devils. And I'm really saying this mainly because he had an awful NCAA tournament, really. He really wasn't able to show up. He didn't show up in big moments. He missed that free throw at the line, and you saw in his face that he really wasn't ready for the moment. And I don't think he's ready for the NBA draft, really, either. His body type, yeah, really does fit the mold of NBA players nowadays, but I think with Zion Williamson and Ja Morant obviously going 1 and 2, I think that they're going to be poised for that situation right there. And you got guys like Jarrett Culver out of Texas Tech and DeAndre Hunter out of Tennessee. So I think that him being maybe that top 5 player, but you saw what that kid out of Purdue did. His name is slipping me right now, but Carson Edwards dropping 42 points in an NCAA tournament game and following that up with only having not having less than 28 points in an NCAA tournament, I think has got to be something that you got to look at in the draft.
All the guys you mentioned are great names, but you look at what RJ Barrett did all season long. Yes, he fell short in the postseason, but he was the second best player in the entire college basketball. And if it wasn't for Zion Williamson, RJ Barrett would be the Naismith and Wooden College Basketball Player of the Year. Well, that's all the time we have for tonight. For Sam Pulicha, I'm Ben Gramato. You've been watching What's Your Point on WTOP 10, and we'll be right back here in 2 weeks bringing you the best takes and the best debate in sports.
Most of us like to be out in the sun. That's why sunscreen and other safety measures are key to protecting your skin from aging and cancer. The FDA recommends using a sunscreen with an SPF of 15 or higher. Also, look for broad spectrum on the label. That means both harmful ultraviolet A and B rays are blocked. Remember, SPF plus broad spectrum equal healthy fun in the sun. Visit www.fda.gov/sunscreen for more information. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
I'm a lot more confident and a lot more sure of my abilities. At Oswego is where I've really found myself and became the person I am.
You work hard and you play hard. I love the environment of SUNY Oswego.
David Richey. I mean, they were. You think Bryce Harvey, Tommy John survivor, Nathan Evaldi.